You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Yes, Miss Moneypenny. Today, we're going to be talking about James Bond, the classic super spy. We're going to speak about how to make the series better and correct everything they've done wrong. Now, I realize my accent has gone all over the place, so we're just going to drop it now. But, so stick around, and after a couple bits of news, I'm going to tell you how I don't want to say fix the James Bond franchise, but it's definitely what I would do to move it forward and make it a little more modern. So stick around for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. It is Thursday, September? Yeah, we're going to go September 15th. Now, guys, remember that Saturday is Batman Day. So get out your Batman gear, your T-shirts, your masks, your Funko Pops. You know, let's have a good Batman Day. Let's really celebrate, you know. And if you do something for Batman Day, you do put on the outfits, you put out the pop figures or the toys, you know, there's a Batman up on my shelf behind me. I got some Batman pop figures somewhere. I got a Jim Lee Hush one. And I've also got the Jim Lee Blue Line figure Batman. Well, if you're going to do something like that, take a picture, send it in to us. Let's see what you do with Batman. So it's Batman Day, so let's definitely celebrate it. We are going to do some James Bond fixing today. But before that, we got a bit of news to cover. There's a few things happening. Nothing, oh my God, let's do the entire show about. But I will say this, that I was awake at about 3 or 4 in the morning this morning, and CNN did a story about Sabra, the Israeli superhero / Mossad agent in the Marvel Universe, who is going to get her first live action interpretation in the upcoming Captain America New World Order. And that's big enough for CNN to cover it. So, you know, the character was cast. The actress's last name is Hess. I remember her first name is an S. I just don't remember if it's Sarah or Sasha or something like that. I forgot to look it up. But she was not at D23, but it was announced that she will be joining Captain America New World Order as Sabra. And the character is interesting because she actually debuted in a Hulk comic, but really got a little more prominence when she was part of the Marvel's Contest of Champions miniseries. And that was one of the earliest miniseries. I mean, if you go back, Marvel wasn't always doing miniseries. Shira Haas, thank you, JD. The first actual miniseries to come out of Marvel was Hercules, the 4-issue series with Bob Layton, and then was the Wolverine series and the Contest of Champions series, which was just a 3-parter, but it introduced a lot of international heroes like Le Persian, the Shamrock, and they brought Sabra in. So let's see, everybody. Hello, Cool. Hey, Ed. JD says, I'm going to leave out the traditional eyeliner and Lexapro for Batman. Okay. And Kyle's online, says, hey, Dan, I'm excited to hear how you plan to fix James Bond, seeing as how we can't bring back George Lazenby or Roger Moore. Well, technically we can with some of the holographs and stuff that we do nowadays. You just get somebody who's close. But no, that's not my suggestion. We'll get to that. Isn't Sabra a brand of hummus? Yes, it is. But that's not. She's not playing a plastic container of hummus. So, and I don't know what she goes if she goes with roasted red peppers. That would be something you'd have to ask her. And that seems kind of personal, so you might not want to. All right. So I just thought that was interesting to see such a obscure Marvel character showing up on CNN in the middle of the night. Jeff, hey, how you doing? Yep, computer is on the mend. For anybody absolutely interested, I had a liquid cooling system for the CPU. I have an AMD CPU. I had this liquid cooling system on there that came with, I have an iBuyPower computer system. It was one of theirs. And I tend to leave my computer on all the time, forever. And it just ended up breaking. So I pulled that out, picked up a Dark Pro series air cool system, put that on. Wasn't sure it was going to fit in the case, but we got it to fit, and it's back up and running and has been running beautifully since last night and absolutely quiet. Mark says, love Contest of Champions for introducing us to the international characters. Yeah, I thought that was a great touch. Plus, I love the whole idea of the Grandmaster versus the Collector. And I still want to see Benicio del Toro's Collector and Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster having a contest like that. I think that would be awesome, and I'd love to see Marvel do that. Well, but then again, I want to see the rest of the Elders of the Universe. Now, they say that Ego was one of them, so you could bring Ego back, but I was hoping in Thor Ragnarok when we found out Russell Crowe was joining the cast before we knew he was going to be Zeus, I was hoping he was going to be the gardener, and we were going to get a whole scene where Gore the God Butcher came in and tried to slaughter the Elders of the Universe. Didn't happen. Would have been fun. But, all right, so that's just one of the news stories. What else we got? I got my notes here. Yes, sometimes I have to use notes. Rogue Squadron. Oh, boy. Yeah, Rogue Squadron. That's the Patty Jenkins-led Star Wars movie based on the novels and stuff. It's supposed to be Wedge and a bunch of other characters, X-Wing pilots. A lot of people are excited for this. They announced it, not this like the last D23 we had. They announced that, but that was right before Wonder Woman 1984 came out. And where everybody was like, oh my God, Patty Jenkins is awesome. Yeah, we love Patty Jenkins after the first Wonder Woman movie. After the 1984, people went, that was a bit problematic. What was she doing to that poor guy who had no free will and was being magically possessed by her dead boyfriend? Yeah, that's a little creepy. Why'd you do that, Patty? So there hasn't been a lot of talk about Rogue Squadron since then. But it officially lost its release date today and is not given a new one. So is it still happening? I mean, Patty Jenkins has said she's always wanted to do a movie about pilots and stuff because her father was a fighter pilot. You would think this is something that Disney would want to keep doing, that Star Wars would want to keep going, especially after the success of Top Gun. The fighter pilot thing. Well, we've got space pilots. Let's go with that. So I have a feeling this is not dead. Will it get a different director? Will there be some changes? Don't know. But it'll be pretty interesting because I haven't heard Patty Jenkins on anything. I know she was doing a Cleopatra movie and bailed on that. So I'm not sure what's happening with Patty Jenkins and her movie lineup. So, but Rogue Squadron has lost its premiere date. Also in the news, Avengers Kang Dynasty has gotten a writer. We already know that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings director, Destin Daniel Cretton, will be directing. Well, now they've got writer Jeff Loveness. And if you're not familiar with Jeff, he goes all the way back, was a writer on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. He's done episodes of Rick and Morty, which seems to be the training ground now for the Marvel Universe, as they're pulling a lot of writers from Rick and Morty. And he just wrote the script for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which makes a lot of sense, being that that's Kang. Kang's a bad guy in Quantumania. So continuing the Kang story in the Avengers, get the same writer. That makes a lot of sense. So Jeff is going to be sticking around for that. Also, most of the Loki writers have been from Rick and Morty. So there seems to be a cohesiveness going with that line of story involving Kang and Jonathan Majors. Now, we don't know if he's going to be around for Secret Wars, or if that'll be Doctor Doom, or who will be kind of the heart of that. But Kang will at least be around for the Kang Dynasty, and Jeff Loveness is involved as the writer. All right, what else we got? Thor: Love and Thunder was a step towards turning into Rick and Morty. It was. There does seem to be a lot of Rick and Morty love with what they're doing, all this stuff in the MCU right now. There's a thread. There's definitely a thread line between them. Another bit of news we got is that Amazon has announced they're going to do a Blade Runner 2099 series, and Ridley Scott, the original director and involved in the Blade Runner, is going to be the executive producer. So the Blade Runner franchise will continue forward. They don't say which, if it's going to, they say Blade Runner 2099, so I'm going with the idea this is going to be the more future one. We're going to follow Ryan Gosling's character, or that universe, instead of going back to the earlier Harrison Ford. I'd like to know more about Harrison Ford's character of Deckard, but we'll have to see how that turns out. But Amazon definitely seems to be spending the money, and it ties to what we're going to talk about, because Amazon bought MGM, and so Amazon will be making the next James Bond movie. And you would think that they're going to want to make it into a big franchise and also include some TV shows. So I got some ideas for that. Ed says, I never saw the new Blade Runner. Was it any good? I have not watched it yet either. I've heard good about it. You have Ana de Armas in it. You have Ryan Gosling. And, of course, Harrison Ford comes back. But it had Jared Leto. Was Jared Leto in the Blade Runner movie? 2099? I didn't think so. But like I said, I haven't actually watched it yet. It's on my list. It's funny. I've got some movies that you would think, well, Dan obviously has watched that. I have not yet watched Logan. I have not yet watched The Joker. And I haven't watched the most recent James Bond, which is funny since I'm doing the show today, but I have not watched No Time to Die. I know all the plots on these things, so. But hey, Kenneth, good to see you. Now, the last bit of news, which I find fascinating, is Stephen King just put a new book out called Fairy Tale. And this thing, just came out. And it's already been optioned for a movie. And it has a director, Paul Greengrass, who has done like 3 of the Bourne movies. I don't think he did the Bourne Identity, but he did the Bourne Supremacy and the Bourne Ultimatum and the Jason Bourne film. He's also done Green Zone with Matt Damon, and he's done Captain Phillips and News of the World with Tom Hanks. So you can kind of expect that maybe Matt Damon or Tom Hanks is going to pop up in this thing. But so this is a brand new Stephen King novel that just came out. And if you're curious what it's about, I did pull the synopsis for it. So this is what it says. It says, Charlie Reed looks like a regular high school kid, great at baseball and football, a decent student, but he carries a heavy load. His mom was killed in a hit-and-run accident when he was 10, and grief drove his dad to drink. Charlie learned how to care for himself and his dad. When Charlie is 17, he meets a dog named Radar and her aging master, Howard Bowditch, a recluse in a big house at the top of a big hill with a locked shed in the backyard. Sometimes strange sounds emerge from it. Now, Charlie starts doing jobs for Mr. Bowditch and loses his heart to Radar. Then, when Bowditch dies, he leaves Charlie a cassette tape telling a story no one would believe. What Bowditch knows and has kept secret all his long life is that inside the shed is a portal to another world. Okay, that actually sounds really cool. I don't know why he named the dog Radar, because I think Radar O'Reilly from MASH, but the idea that the shed's this doesn't feel like a Stephen, unless the other world is scary as hell, it doesn't feel like a Stephen King book. It sounds more like, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or, C.S. Lewis, that type of thing. It sounds like, or The Magicians, or, this kind of a fantasy thing. So maybe this is Stephen King. He does move away from horror sometimes, but I'm kind of curious about this. Sounds like a standard paperback fantasy I read in the 80s, according to JD. Okay, but it's Stephen King. So JD says, you mean Stephen isn't going to direct it himself? He did such a great job with Maximum Overdrive. I know some people who love the Maximum Overdrive movie. My buddy Lisa's kid and my friend Braden, who's going to be turning 17 on Saturday, he loves Maximum Overdrive because it has all the elements he likes. He grew up loving horror movies. One of the first things he said when he was a kid was Michael Myers. So he loves horror, and you throw in trucks, and you've got some of the things he loves. So Maximum Overdrive is his flick. And it says, all three of the movies you just listed I have seen, and they were all disappointing. The last Bond film was by far the worst one with Daniel Craig. Okay. I've heard mixed on it. I've heard a lot of people going, why did they end it that way? Again, I haven't watched it yet, but I am a fan of Daniel Craig's. So it says, I love Maximum Overdrive. It's fun. Plus the Green Goblin semi was not to like. See, there you go. So Stephen King probably should have directed it, but he's got Paul Greengrass. All right. Let's see. Is that all the news? I think that's all the news. So let's go ahead and we'll take our quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to fix the James Bond franchise. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
We make the Image comic book Stray Dogs. You're watching The Experience.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We are going to be talking about James Bond, and Ed says that it would be great if we could do the James Bond theme to start out the segment, and I would love that. The only problem is that if we did that, then this whole episode would be taken off of YouTube for copyright infringement, and I don't think my producer or Kyle and them would not like that at all. Yeah, we would get all the bans. Yep. So, yeah. I wonder if I did something like, would we get away with that? All right. Let's get into James Bond. Fair use. Okay. All right. Now, this isn't really going to be a big rant, but it's going to be a bit of a rant because I have felt like the James Bond franchise, where I like Daniel Craig stuff. I like how he's been, but I think the franchise itself has been kind of mismanaged over the last few years. Now, Ian Fleming first published James Bond, which was Casino Royale, in 1953. And from there, he published a new James Bond novel every year from 1953 to 1966. So that's consistency. And then it got a little more sporadic after that, but the books just kept coming, along with short stories published in magazines. There is a plethora of James Bond writing out there. There is so much so that a buddy of mine, Alan Porter, and his wife have made a book specifically, it's like this thick, about everything James Bond, with the novels and the comics and stuff. It's a great book. I actually interviewed them on the show one day, and I have the book somewhere behind me, but should have dug it out beforehand. So there is a ton of James Bond out there. When you look at the short stories, the novels, the comics, because there are comics too, and the novels are still coming. They put 2 new James Bond novels out just this year. There's With a Mind to Kill by Anthony Horowitz and Double or Nothing by Kim Sherwood. Now, one of them is more of a retro book that kind of takes place after, I think it's not after Dr. No, but it's in that era where we would have gotten the 60s, where Double or Nothing, I think, is a more recent setting. There's also this line of comics from Dynamite right now, which have been wonderful. There's a current 007 series right now that is probably one of the best ones I've read. Benjamin Percy has done a good run on it. Warren Ellis did a really good run on them. And they've got a lot of really good, and they did some spin-off stuff. Dynamite's nailing it with James Bond. There's also 25 official movies, counting No Time to Die, plus 2 unofficial ones if you look at the Casino Royale from the 60s, or Never Say Never Again, which was basically just a remake of Thunderball because of weird copyright rules. Yeah, Ed agrees. The new 007 is actually pretty cool. And we've been covering it on in stores this week. And yeah, it is really cool. Now, we're at this weird crossroads right now. Daniel Craig is done. He's done 5 James Bond movies and he's tapping out. And it's time for a new actor to fill a role. Now, this isn't the first time they've replaced the lead. They started with Sean Connery, and then they took a quick sidestep to George Lazenby when Connery wasn't available. Connery came back. They got Roger Moore for a bunch of movies. Then they went on to Timothy Dalton. And what's funny is they went to Timothy Dalton because Pierce Brosnan wasn't available because of Remington Steele. Dalton did too, and then they got Pierce Brosnan, and he did a bunch. And then eventually they ended up with Daniel Craig. So, and then Dalton was actually considered, I think, before Moore, but turned it down. So it's kind of funny how, if you ever look up how that all works. But there's a lot of people right now that are saying it's time for a change with James Bond. They're they're hoping that the next Bond is either a person of color or a woman. So you could have, like, the last film had someone else become 007, and it was a black woman. So, they did kind of tap into that. But we're also at a point where every franchise is trying to become these big cohesive universes. And where a lot of them are forcing it, I think the James Bond franchise is one that could easily bust out into multiple premises and expand, and they haven't in over 60 years of doing films. The novels and comics have tried, like I said, but they haven't done anything with the movies. That just, everything is Bond. You have this neat world of 00 agents, and that could easily be expanded on. There's multiple 00 agents. There's 001 through 009. So any of them could become their own film. Or you could spin off characters like Felix Leiter, the Bond CIA counterpart. You could do something with Miss Moneypenny or Q. I mean, you have these interesting characters that you could do a story about. Now, Dynamite has done some of that. They did a Felix Leiter miniseries. They did a Miss Moneypenny one-shot. They haven't done a Q one-shot. Hey, Nick, if you're listening, can I do a Q one-shot? I think it'd be fun. All the gadgets. So now you could do something with any of those characters, but nothing like that has been done in the film. So I have my own ideas how to expand the franchise and reboot Bond and create some new leads for their own films. Now this might be the controversial part of this episode. I would keep Bond as a Caucasian male, as he's described in the books. And it's not because I don't think you should have an African American, a person of color in the lead or a woman in the lead. I think that there are both good and bad things, part of the character of Bond, that are essential to the character. And that growing up as a person of color or growing up as a woman, these things that you would go through naturally as that would change him, or it would change the character. His arrogance and his womanizing, they're not great characteristics, but they are built into the character. And now they could be toned down, but I don't think you should remove them. If anything, you should make them character traits that you put against him. You basically force him to confront those things. There are ways you could use them to make the character grow. But again, that's who James Bond is. And that said, you could make new characters, new 00 agents featuring women and people of color that could easily lead their own franchises and be unique characters influenced by the lives they lead. Bond does what he does because of how he was raised, how he grew up, all of that. He's this force of nature. But a woman growing up would be different, would do different things. A person of color growing up would have different influences and be a different thing. They should be their own character. And I think that should be celebrated. You could make a kick-ass female spy that could launch her own film franchise instead of trying to merge those qualities with the baggage that comes with Bond. Make a unique female 00 agent and give her own franchise, a unique person of color, whether it's a black actor, a Hispanic actor, a South Asian actor, any of the stuff. You could do any of that. Like I said, there's another 8 00 numbers out there you could make. So that's part of my thinking with creating a new James Bond movie. Ed says, what if they put Bond in charge of a group of 00 agents? That could be very cool. They could start with 007 female agent from the last movie. But to do that, you pretty much need to bring back Daniel Craig, because I think if you're going to introduce a new Bond and put him in charge, then you've got to establish that Bond. So if they could get Daniel Craig to come back, that would be an interesting way to take the franchise in a new direction. So that's not a bad idea. But yeah, you would have to establish that Bond, or that James Bond. But that could be interesting. Now, I think they need a clean break and start the franchise fresh, is at least my approach. And I would do a movie that right now in my head I'm calling Eagle's Fall. So that would be the new James Bond film, Eagle's Fall. And what you have is a security breach that has leaked the British government's most sensitive information, including the names of all the 00 agents. Then this new terrorist group. Now, you could make this the predecessor for Smersh or Spectre, but you don't necessarily have to. But this new terrorist group uses the information to cripple the spy agency. They basically wipe out all of the agents and most of the hierarchy. They take out the bases. They take out a bunch of the 00s. They take out the support staff. I mean, it is like a blitzkrieg on MI6. Is it MI6 or MI5? I always get those confused. I'm going to say MI6 until JD tells me I'm wrong. Now, all that's left at this point after the big strike is a wounded M, his assistant who got him out alive. Now, this could be Miss Moneypenny, but I think just MI6. Thank you, JD. I think it could be, just anybody, but it could just be a new assistant. Gets him out alive, and a retired 002 agent that M goes to when everything, is like safe haven. It's the most recent retired agent, but he's off the books. His name wasn't leaked, or her name, doesn't matter, because they were already retired. It wasn't part of the latest information. So it's a safe haven that M could get to. And once there, he initiates Protocol Eagle's Fall. And what Eagle's Fall is, it's the contingency plan for something like this. What you end up with is they have 3 candidates that were specifically in mind to be new 00 agents. And 002 is then tasked with getting these agents, bringing them in, and getting them up to speed so that they could then go after this, we'll call it Spectre for now, but this new terrorist group. Now, here we get the new James Bond, and we get 2 others who get the designation of 003 and 006. Now, you could have fun. Now, I'm thinking 003 is a person of color, is a black actor. 006 is a female. And you could call 006 Alex Trevelyan, who is, of course, Sean Bean's character's name from GoldenEye. So you could just keep that name. Alex could be a male or a female name. And I thought that would just be kind of a fun carryover. So you got a new 003, a 006, and a brand new 007. The 3 of them are led by 002 into a counterstrike of the group that attacked. Now, you could also at this point introduce a new Felix Leiter and get him involved as well if you want to bring in a new Felix Leiter. I always think that's a good idea because I think Felix is a great character. Or you could even bring back you could bring back Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter and make him an older actor. Or you could go younger, and then eventually you could do movies with Felix Leiter. Now, the 3 of them are led into this counterstrike, and they're attacked. The team gets overwhelmed on their mission. But the assistant had been contacted by a 00 agent named 009 who turned out to be alive and is sent in to help. So we think all the 00s are dead. They find one who's still alive. Now, what we end up figuring out is that the big twist, 002 is the one who sold out MI6. And she was leading this group into attack to really just completely disable MI6. But 009 ends up turning the tables, and we find out that 002 is a double agent and is one that sold the data. And, so we got that swinging around too. But 002 was lied to, because this was supposed to be just to bring down the agency, not to kill everybody. So they feel betrayed. Now, the 5 00s have a big confrontation against the group, eventually winning. 002 is killed, 009 is wounded, but they get they get out of there, they take down the group, and MI6 basically gets reformed. It's a much younger, leaner department at that point. 009 is out of the field now. Their injuries keep them from being an agent anymore. But what they end up becoming is kind of the trainer and mentor for the new agents. And eventually would lead to them becoming the new M. So you'd actually have a former 00 as the new M, which I think would be interesting. So that character would carry along. And maybe you introduce the 009 earlier, and you get the idea that maybe they're the double agent or whatever. And when it turns around, you could put that in there. But we end up with 003, 006, and 007 as the new future of the franchise. So you have a new James Bond, you have a new and 2 other 00s to launch into their own movies. Now, casting-wise, I picked people and I forgot to actually put down what they've been in before. But I was thinking Josh Bowman as 007 as Bond, Michael Ward as 003, and Olivia Popica as 006. And you'd basically launch these new franchises with these characters. And again, if you introduce Felix Leiter, you've got that option. But you could have them interact, and you could then have also where they do individual movies and they come back and they work together again. You can build off of that. You could also do a TV series with maybe you introduce a new 004, 002, and they go through the training with 009. So you could have a TV show as well. You just start expanding MI6. You still have your James Bond. You have, that classic character, but then you end up with 2 new agents to do movies from. You could start putting these out every year or every 6 months. I mean, there's a marketplace for that. If you could put out an Avengers or a Marvel movie every 4 months, 4 times a year, you could put a James Bond or a MI6 spy movie out every year, easily, or every twice a year, or you could put a series together. You get a lot of options at that point, and you go with these younger actors and you get them into these big long-term contracts like you do with the Marvel guys, and you start thinking about it as this cohesive universe. So that's where I would go with it. I would shape it a little differently. So like I said, that's my thought on that. Let's take another quick break, and we'll come back, and I'm going to look up those actors again so I can tell you what they've been in before, so you might get a good idea who they are. So we will be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Hey, it's producer Kyle. If you like going places where the action never stops like Las Vegas, the Caribbean, and Atlantic City, then you're probably not who I want to talk to. But if you want to surround yourself with amazing comic books and comic book content made by a devoted group of smart and funny industry insiders, the Experience Members Club was made for you. You can join the Experience by becoming a supporting member of our YouTube channel. You get access to exclusive content that no one else gets, like members-only live streams, pre-sales, one-on-one Q&As with production staff, and other content that's exclusively for members. Plus, for a limited time, if you sign up now, you'll be entered into our giveaway of a slabbed comic book. Just call this 1-8... Wait, hold on. It's 2022. No one makes phone calls anymore. Scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen, or just visit the membership section of our YouTube page, and you'll be on the VIP line of the comic book buffet, baby. Look at the size of those perks. Join today, and I'll be saying, "Who loves you, baby?" Me. The answer was me.
Hi, I'm Jacob Murray, writer of The Eighth Immortal and Court of the Dead comic from Sideshow Collectibles, and you're watching The Experience.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Dan Wickline Show. We are talking James Bond here. And stick around today. We have some great stuff running. But I have completely slipped my mind. So, JD, please tell us what's up today.
Well, our lovely friend, Miss Jen, is on a vacation in Gay Perry. So unfortunately, no What's in the Box tonight. We are going to do a marathon of Space Cadets, which is the crew at, of course, Space Cadets Collection, where they cover pop culture, comic books, movies, just whatever is in the zeitgeist. And that's going to be 3 nonstop hours. So if you haven't watched that show, this is a great time to get into it and catch up.
Is Miss Jen not on her vacation because it's her 30th wedding anniversary?
That is an interesting question.
I believe that's the case. I know it's her wedding anniversary. I believe it's her 30th. And we want to send best wishes and congrats to Miss Jen and her lovely husband. So, hope they're having a great time out there. All right. Oh, JD had an idea. So, the opening movie has no 007. The cut scene after the credits is a scene of the new M introducing a new recruit to 006, where they're to train a new James Bond. I like the idea of the opening being just a 00 agent being killed, and we could do the bait and switch. We introduce a character who looks like they might be James Bond and is on a mission, and they get killed. Then we get the cutscene, and it's just the blood red coming down. And then we go into the whole thing about, agents being, and we just blitz them. Just blitz them with all the destruction of the MI, and M being rushed out of the building or whisked out of the building. That's how I would do it. So, all right. So who were these characters I mentioned? Josh Bowman, who I said I would pick as James Bond. See, I want to go younger, and I want to go with people who we're not too expecting already. Like some of the big names out there. Henry Cavill should be James Bond. Now, I love Henry Cavill. I love him as Superman. I love him as The Witcher. He was great in The Tudors. I liked him in Man from U.N.C.L.E. Okay, Henry Cavill is awesome. But I think we need someone who is Bond first and not, it's this person playing Bond. So Josh Bowman has a great pedigree behind him. He was on the TV series Revenge. He was on the short-lived TV series Time After Time, where he played the Jack the Ripper character. He was also on Doctor Who. He's been in the series Our Girl. Yeah, he's got a really good background. He definitely could, and he's got that look that you want from a James Bond. You know, you throw him in a tuxedo, he's going to look sharp. I think he'd do great, and he's young enough that he'll be around a while. I think he's 34, so you're going to get 10, 15 years out of him. Michael Ward is younger than that. He was born in 97, so he's just in his early 20s. I like that idea that one of the characters is really young. Actually, I like that most of these characters are young. At least Bond's a little more seasoned. But Michael Ward has come from the movie Top Boy, Blue Story, Dev's Diary. So he's got some background, but I think he was also on the A-list. I think he'd be an interesting casting for an agent as well. And I think he could bring a different feel to it. You know, you don't expect him to be James Bond because he's not playing James Bond. He's going to be his own type of agent. And then Olivia Popica is also an up-and-coming young actress, but she's got a good look about her. And she's done films like A Tree Fell Today. She was a small character in Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. She was in The Informer. She's currently doing a series called Liaisons. So at least this is the type of thing I would be looking for if I was casting, a chance to really get some young actors, bring them in, and keep them for a while. Okay, Triple B says, don't want to go off topic, but isn't She-Hulk one of the best Marvel shows they put out? Yeah. She-Hulk is doing exactly what they want to do. They're doing a different type of story, and it's a lot of fun. Now, I was a little surprised. The latest episode, if you haven't seen it yet, does not have a post-credit scene, where the other 4 so far have. It seems kind of weird that we suddenly get one that doesn't. But there is that moment at the end of the episode that I think is why they didn't, because they didn't want to take away from that moment. But it's this latest episode, and I don't want to go into too much. We'll talk about it next week. Yeah. But it kind of ties together a lot of things that seem like it was just thrown into the story. You know, oh, this is character stuff for Jen. It's not that important, but it becomes important. You know, her dating, all those things, the people she dates, how she dated, all of that becomes important in this episode. And it's a really well-written episode. It's a little awkward, but it's a sitcom, and sitcoms are supposed to be. They're supposed to be that awkward situational part. So it was a good episode. And, you know, if you guys have not been watching She-Hulk, definitely check it out. So, all right, that is what I'm doing that's what I would do with James Bond. I would spin it off into multiple franchises by creating other 00 agents. So, you know, you have 007, you have 003, 006, and then you could also grow from there. You could bring in other characters. You could bring in, you know, like I said, you could then focus on the training. You could do a whole series about training the next 00. You know, that literally could be a series, as you have a group of people come in and work towards becoming the next 00. We've never explored that. That's a whole area of the franchise that has never been looked upon. We just always get, you know, oh, James is, you know, Casino Royale was the closest in that we see him actually get his 2 kills before becoming an official 00, before he gets his license to kill. So we could explore that area. JD wants a standalone Madison MCU movie. Yeah. If we're getting an Agatha Harkness series, you never know. Anything is possible. But Yeah. So, I mean, Amazon is going to want to get their money out of their MGM purchase. And there's not a lot that came with MGM. The biggest thing is the James Bond franchise. So if they're going to get their money back, they need to expand it and build it out and get TV series out of it and get multiple movie franchises out of it. And I think they could do that by following the different 00s, following Felix Leiter, maybe give him a call sign so you got a better franchise name, you know, and then you could do TV series. Like I said, you could do something with Training the Next 00. You could actually put a series with Miss Moneypenny. You know, maybe Miss Moneypenny goes on a simple assignment for M and it turns into a big thing. That, you know, there's a lot you could do, you know. So Bond is fertile ground that just hasn't been properly tilled yet. So I am hoping that with Amazon, they start looking at it that way. But the thing is that even though Amazon now owns the rights to put out the movies, it's still the same producers, and they've been very limited on what they're willing to do. And I hope that'll change. I hope they get the opportunity and see it as an opportunity to change and grow and increase the franchise. Jay says, I don't want Cavill as Bond. I want him as Von Doom. No. See, I don't see Henry Cavill being Doom, because why would you hire Henry Cavill to put him in a mask for an entire thing? You hire a character actor with an amazing voice to be Von Doom. You don't put somebody as attractive as Henry Cavill in armor with a mask on, you know? And it's not like, you know, his is supposed to be permanently on because he fries it to his face. So I don't see Von Doom as a good choice for Cavill from an acting and casting standpoint. Do I think he could do it? Absolutely. Let's see. Assassins, Pennyworth versus Moneypenny. Yes, you call it in for a penny, in for a pound. Jay says, Dan's over here saving franchises left and right. Hey, they could call me. I'd be happy to help them out. You know, anybody got a franchise? Let me, I'll come in. I'll help you out. JD says, I would make a good Doom. Someone tell Marvel. Yeah. Triple B likes what I came up with 007. Thank you, Triple B. Yeah, I think it would be fun. You know, heck, I would love to do that, even if it was just in the comics. You know, to do a Dynamite series that way and take them that direction, or a novel or something, just to kind of show that it could expand easily. You know, I think, you know, Dynamite should take another agent and run with it, a female agent or a person of color agent, and just show how it would be different, you know? So that's my thoughts on that. Where are we at? Okay. Next week's going to be a little different, folks. I am having just minor surgery on Tuesday. So it's a one-day thing, but I will probably be at the hospital all day Tuesday. So, and just to be on the safe side, what we're going to do is we're not going to run the Dan Wickline Show next week on Monday or on Tuesday and Wednesday. But we are going to do is run Pop Go the Writers, which probably episodes we haven't run the air before. We're kind of a little backlogged, but myself and Jim Beard talking about stuff like She-Hulk and Rings of Power and things like that. And Jim has got some great insight. So you guys, you definitely want to check out that next week. So there'll be 2 episodes of Pop Go the Writers. And then I plan on being back on Thursday, in which case we will catch up on the latest She-Hulk, which dropped last night, the One Ring, I keep wanting to call it the One Ring, the Rings of Power, and anything else that comes up during the week. So my apologies for not being here next week, but that is life. So it's not like I'm on a vacation, trust me. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, it's a minor procedure. It's supposed to just be outpatient, in, out, good to go. But I've been having a lot of issues with my legs, and this should help. So we will see. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap that up. So we're going to do a Space Cadet Marathon coming up with the lovely Jenna and the crew from Space Cadets, talking pop culture, movies, comics, and everything else. And I will see you all back next week. I will be doing Popco the Writers on Sunday night with Jim. That we'll still be doing that one. And also, if you guys haven't checked it out, I do have a TikTok now where I do pop up quick little 60-second videos talking about whatever the latest news is, and I will continue doing that. You can see right below it says tiktok.com Dan Wickline, so you can follow me there or on Twitter. The TikToks also, they end up posting on Instagram and on Facebook, so you can get me on either of those as well. So check it out. I will talk to you all soon. Have a great weekend. I'll see you later.
Get the inside scoop on everything happening at the experience every week. Join our mailing list by scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen and then watching your email inbox.